It's another exciting edition of Health Check on Voice of the People television. I am Promise. And of course, it is a delight to have you here. As always, we're here to break down key health topics, explore how it impacts our daily lives, share practical wellness tips, and hear expert insights from professionals in the medical field. And today, we'll begin with a brief look at the World Health Day celebration, which was this week, before diving into our main focus, which will be Nigeria's recent spike in Lassa fever cases. We'll be discussing the causes of the outbreak, of course, available treatments and important safety tips to help us stay protected. We'll have a health expert joining us in the studio to shed more light on these important issues today. But before we go in, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, click on that subscription button on our YouTube channel. We add Voice of the People television, and on all other social media platforms, we add VOP TV Live. You can also join us, catch us on XLTV on channel 202. That's where we'll bring you interesting topical conversations going on. And today, World Health Day was celebrated, of course, on Monday. And to mark the occasion, VOP TV hit the street of Lagos to hear what people had to say about the state of Nigeria's health sector. Many shared words of encouragement for our healthcare professionals who continue to risk their lives to save others. Now, despite the challenges of limited resources, of course, like we know, and the ongoing brain drain affecting the Nigerian health system, we'd like to get that report on the screen. Every year on April 7th, countries around the globe mark World Health Day, an occasion dedicated to raising awareness about pressing health challenges and mobilizing collective efforts to address them. Each year, the day is guided by a specific theme aimed at sparking conversations, driving policy shifts, and encouraging action across borders. This year's theme, Healthy Beginnings, Hopeful Futures, underscores the critical role of early health interventions and the power of global cooperation in securing better outcomes for future generations. It serves as a reminder that good health is the foundation of well-being and prosperity for individuals, communities, and nations alike. In recognition of the day, VOP TV took to the street to hear from every Nigerian, gathering public sentiment on the current state of the country's healthcare sector, as well as appreciation for the dedication and sacrifices of healthcare professionals in the country.
Today is World Health Day. I want to use this moment to say big shout, very, very big shout to every doctor and nurses in this world, wherever you are. We appreciate you for taking your time to sacrifice everything about you for us. We appreciate you. But it is very sad that in this Nigeria, they don't appreciate you people. Because the people that are not even, they don't care about people are embezzling. Why the nurse and people that are treating us, taking care of us, they just treat them anyhow. They will even go on strike. Nobody cares. Nobody is speaking for them. On behalf of all the nurse and the doctor in this country, big shouts for you, every one of you. On behalf of Nigerian citizens, I want to tell the government, you are not doing good. Look at it. Our president is in other countries receiving treatment. He cannot even provide a place to receive treatment inside his own country. Health is wealth, too, but our country no get health. Well, Ministry of Health, they are not doing, they are not even close to enough, because we are hearing so many things happening here. A lot of people, especially pregnant women, will get to the place. You'll be hearing so many funny scenarios whereby you say there's no light, there's no doctor on seat, there's clinic on strike, all those things. You need to pay attention to it. It is not about the doctor and the nurse that are working. They are ready to work. They are ready to sacrifice everything to make sure that everybody is fine. But the oga sitting at that ministry to make sure that everything is going on, to make sure that equipment that is supposed to be in the hospital is there, they don't chop the money. There is nothing like health in Nigeria. If health is in Nigeria, how are the politicians traveling to other countries to go and receive health care? There is no health. They are not doing anything now. It's obvious. Do I need to tell them?
About healthcare in Nigeria, the healthcare here, if you watch at it, the healthcare is not working. There's no even health in Nigeria because a lot of children are dying in the hospital. People cannot even afford to pay for the hospital bill. Can you see? It's not that the money is not there to buy the equipment and to build a lot of hospital. But the health minister, what is he doing about those things? The money allocated for those things are being ate by some people. So there's no healthcare in Nigeria, just like my brother said it. Some of the doctors have already run away. Some of the doctors are not here. The professional doctors, they are in abroad. So the few one we have here now, maybe they are just using people body to do experiment in the hospital. If I have to say, there's no doctor presently now. I visit the hospital most time. I visit the Loot most time. General Hospital at Lagos Island. I'm there last week. There's no health care. If you don't, the only health care we have in Nigeria now is your money. If you don't have money, no health care for you. That's just it. I appreciate the remaining doctors that are left here. Fine, they didn't run away. They are still with us to manage the situation with us. So I really appreciate them for that. But for now, it is money that is your health care. There's no health care in Nigeria. If you don't have money, you die in the hospital. That's just it. Even the nurse will tell you, where's your people? Where's the money? There's nobody. Yeah, you have to pay before you receive treatment. Medicine is so high, medical, everything. If you want to buy good medicine now, they are so expensive, and the poor people cannot afford it, so they go for the roadside. You see, to buy the poison again, you see, you can see the problem. Since you cannot afford the expensive one at the healthcare, at the Health Plus, the pharmacy, they don't have choice than to go for the roadside and go and be buying all those ones. The Igbo boys are carrying the basket. And that is more damage to the health again. You don't know now, there's nothing. The poor man does not have money, just go and buy Gbogbo Tigbo, all of them are 1,002. Wow. It's more dangerous to the body, it's killing the body. So what I do, as a traditional man, I deal with herbs. Since I cannot afford the general hospital or the expensive one, so I go for herbs. That is where we are now, and I'm doing self-medication for myself, and I'm enjoying myself because I deal with herbs. And I know herbs. I was born in the Igbo tradition, so anything about herbs, I already know it.
Speaking on the importance of reducing child mortality and improving health systems, the Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, emphasized the urgency of investing in strong, equitable healthcare structures and the need for sustained international collaboration to protect the vulnerable.
World Health Day this year is a cause for celebration and a call to action. More mothers and children are surviving today than ever before. Since 2000, maternal deaths have dropped by 40% and child deaths have halved. These gains are the result of research, investment, and dedication from health workers, scientists, public officials, partners, and civil society organizations. But still, every 7 seconds, a mother or baby dies a preventable death. Each one represents a life lost too soon and a system that failed to protect them. Too many families still face heartbreak due to lack of essential care at birth.
Citizens are calling for accountability and transparency in the health sector while encouraging healthcare professionals to continue doing their best. Promise Enyi, reporting for Voice of the People Television. All right, welcome back. And if you're just joining us, this is Health Check on Voice of the People Television. And we're discussing Lassa fever outbreak causes and prevention. That is what we're going to be focusing on today. Well, Nigeria is facing a growing public health challenge as Lassa fever continues to spread across the country. Between January and March 2025, health authorities reported over 3,400 suspected cases in 91 local government areas, spanning 33 states so far. 660 cases have been confirmed and 122 deaths recorded, raising the fatality rate to 18.5%, an increase from the previous year. The outbreak has also affected 20 healthcare workers across multiple states. The Nigerian Center for Disease Control and Prevention has named Ondo, Bauchi, and Edo State as the epicenters of the outbreak, with these three states alone accounting for over 70% of confirmed cases. In response, the agency has activated its National Incident Management System, deployed rapid response teams to 10 high-risk states, and intensified community awareness campaigns as part of its efforts. The NCDC is also working closely with international partners to improve clinical care, surveillance, and research. Health officials continue to urge early treatment and prompt reporting as key steps to reduce the impact of the outbreak. Well, joining us in the studio to dissect this is Dr. Paul Kushemeju, a seasoned medical practitioner with over 13 years of experience in general and family medicine. He's also served as a health safety environmental manager equipped with NEBOSH qualifications. And beyond his clinical works, Dr. Paul is a certified health and wellness coach, a practicing telemedicine doctor, and an entrepreneur committed to improving healthcare access and promoting healthier lifestyle. Today, he's here to shed light on Lassa fever outbreak, its causes, impacts, and how we can stay protected. Good afternoon, Dr. Paul. Good to have you in the studio with us today.
Good afternoon, Promise, and good to be here.
Thank you for joining us. So let's start off with Lassa fever. Would like to know exactly what Lassa fever is and why has it suddenly resurfaced in Nigeria?
Okay, Lassa fever is it's a viral hemorrhagic fever, which is caused, as we know, by the mostly seen with the is transported from mammals, that's the animals, majorly to humans through the called the African rat, which is one of the most common rats to which it's used. And it causes what we'll call a viral hemorrhagic symptoms. Now, when we talk about hemorrhagic, we're talking about there's blood within it. Okay. So basically it has to do with there are certain symptoms you would see in this kind of fever. Like, you know, they have different kinds of fever. Other things that present like it, you have malaria fever, yellow fever. But when we talk of viral hemorrhagic fevers, there's production of blood comes out. So it could be from the mouth, or it could be from the secretion part of the body. So, but you know, there's bloody, it's bloody, the presence.
So when you see these signs, you know that something is wrong.
Definitely.
This fever is different from every other kind of fever,
yes.
like malaria fever.
So
help us make sense. This particular, I believe there's a particular species of rats that causes or carries this virus. How do people even differentiate this rat from every other rat, if it's possible anyway for us?
Okay, so now it's more, Lassa fever is more endemic in the West African countries. Nigeria has been part of this.
I think it started in I think northeastern part of the country, a town called Lassa now. That was why it was named.
It was first in 1969.
Yeah,
that was in Borno. Yeah, so that was where I think it was one of the missionaries. I think her name was Laura. Was one of the first people that she contracted this strange illness. So they got her, by the time they got her to a place where she could be treated, they brought her, I think, down towards the middle belt of the country then. And then she died, but then her carer also got it, and then that one was not taken out. So a sample of that one was not, it was from the carer, they got the sample taken abroad to the UK. And then that was where they were able to identify the species.
And it could also be possible that people from that Lassa community, people must have died because of this virus.
And people would
before the missionary came.
And
because there was no, productivity of testing or something of that nature. People may not know what happened to them or what killed them as of then.
I totally agree with you, and also with this and that, people would have been dying with that kind of fever and those kind of things, but would not even see it as. You just feel that, it was my time to go. So someone just got sick and then they decided to go. But so the thing must have been ravaging in the body. The earliest time they began to notice this was especially when this missionary got infected in 1969. And then from then on, the West has also begun to have an eye on it. So when they noticed that they started doing research about it, into the fact where
this is a virus, right?
It's a virus, and to where one of the doctors who actually was doing research on it got infected. He actually almost died, but one of his assistants died, but he survived. So with that, they began to try to do a little bit more research, and surprisingly, even till today, there's still no vaccine for it.
We'll get to that vaccine part. I'm going to ask you that, but please still help us make sense. How do we differentiate the rat that carries the virus, the Lassa virus, from every other rats or every other rodent?
Okay, now the thing with this kind of rat, which is called the African rat, the African mammalian rat, it has a Latin name, Mammalia natalensis or something like that. But the thing with this rat is that it's a very big rat. Now, it's the type of rat that in this part of West Africa, that rat is also a delicacy. People eat it. So in places like, you have the bush rat. People go into the bushes. This is the kind of rat, they look for those big rats that they feel have a lot of meat. These are how the mammalian rats are. So people catch this rat not knowing that there are reservoirs for this kind of illness, cook it, eat it, or...
So there is some part of the country that eats
rodents.
They
eat rodents, yes. And then also, there's also the part in which people leave their houses exposed to where these rodents go into their stores, going into where food items are kept, because the part of the rat also that is able to pass where these, through which there is the transmission to humans, is via their feces and their urine. So once a rat is infected, every time that you have to urinate or passes feces, always has a lot of these viruses inside.
In them.
And the viruses can last for... So imagine someone has a bag of rice now. You leave it out there, the rat goes there, eats on it, urinates into it, passes feces into it, and then you later on, maybe after 2-3 weeks, take a portion of that rice to still go cook.
So even after cooking, you mean the virus is still going to be active after cooking that meal?
A virus, they could tell you that you can put a virus here and it can stay here for like 20 years.
Wow.
Viruses can be that latent. And they can just get, in contact
so
with a living being.
Yes,
they have a long survival life. With a living being, they just get activated.
So what makes this outbreak currently we're facing, especially in 2025, we're seeing high surge in this outbreak of Lassa fever. What is peculiar about this outbreak than every other outbreak we've had in Nigeria, every other Lassa fever outbreak we've had in Nigeria?
The last time we had an outbreak of Lassa fever in Nigeria, I think was 2022. Now, what makes 2025 more severe now is because it's growing much worse than what we had in 2022. And we're seeing NDCDC has been able to try to identify certain states. And if you ask me, I'm not saying in full that this is it, but these are states where certain practices that have, I'm very sure, mostly with rodents, can be found. You still see people go around states, especially in the West, people still go into the bush, eat bush meat and all those things.
Like Ondo State,
Yes.
like you mentioned, the West. Now, Ondo State is part of one of the states that has the highest number of this outbreak.
And I'm very
also
sure.
have Edo State. Is there anything particular in these states, or what is it that they are doing? How does this outbreak going so much in this region or in these states? What made it different from every other state? Why are we having so much high number of this outbreak in these states?
Now, prevalence of these rodents in these states, because once it's transmitted from a rodent to a human being, the next phase of transmission is really from the human to the human. So imagine someone who possibly eats rat meat, so he goes to Western states, eats rat meat, he's fed rat meat, he eats it, it feels very, very delicious. He starts exhibiting the symptoms, goes to a hospital, people try to treat, they don't know what it is, trying to treat him, they all get infected. And then from then on, they meet other people in their own environment, they get infected. That's how it just begins to spread.
I'd like you, Dr. Paul, to elaborate more on the transmission cases or how this is transmitted. Is it by feces or by human sweat? Or is it through coughing or through liquid? What are the processes or what are the things or the ways that this virus could be transmitted from human to human?
All right. So now mostly with human to human transmission, body fluids could be possibly blood, sweat, saliva, urine.
So it's more like the coronavirus.
Yes, the virus,
ways
so
of
the ways of
transmission
transmission. So yes, it also has that same transmission pattern. So, and these all, and people, as you see, even now you see now health workers are now getting more infected because they're dealing with blood substances, fluid from patients. So these things are becoming, these are also ways in which we need to be much more careful with. because there are also ways in which the virus can be transmitted among humans.
Okay, are there any other myths? Some people might believe that there are myths or misconceptions about how this Lassa fever is being spread. What are the things we need to address concerning, is there even a myth? Let me just put it that way. Because you know that some people still believe that HIV virus is a myth. And some people, like in South Africa, there are people, you know that there are high rates of rape in South Africa.
True.
And some people or some men believe in, it is said that some men in South Africa believe that when you rape or abuse a woman, there's this myth that tells them that, oh, the virus goes away. So it makes them
Want to rape more women.
Want to destroy, I'll use that word, destroy more women. So are there myths surrounding Lassa fever?
When you talk about myths surrounding Lassa fever, I'm just trying to think about what kind of myths you would think about. Would you be talking about that's possible because it's a rodent, so there's some myths that people feel that, okay, so if it is rodent, I can get a lot of cats around my house.
And chase
kill
them
all
away.
the yes and kill all the rodents, and then it would
Possibly.
reduce. Yeah, so there are myths that way. At least that's one of the myths I do know of. But apart from that, I'm very sure that people would try. I'm sure a lot of people have cats in their houses, and I'm sure that it still hasn't reduced
the rate of the outbreak.
Those are things in which the main thing we're not focusing, and I think that's one thing we need to really do, especially in Nigeria, is to focus on the main problem and how to combat it. Not just focus on things around it that people talk about, myths, this, no. Let's focus on this is the problem we do have. How do we mitigate it? How do we stop it in its track? It's increasing. These are the things, we need to step up our, we need to do all these are the things we need to do to stop it.
All right, so talking about problems now and how to solve this virus, NCDC has given us details of number of people who are being infected by this virus, even health workers, number of people who have died. But how effective is the response of the NCDC in curbing and controlling the outbreak in Nigeria? Are they doing enough? Are there enough sensitization?
Okay, with the NCDC, I believe that they are doing as much as they can because just like, when the coronavirus came out, coronavirus, Ebola, when Lassa fever came out in 2022, they did bring out sensitization materials, information to inform the public. But I think many of this information many times doesn't get to the grassroots. But doesn't get to the grassroots enough to be able to really sensitize them.
People in the grassroots.
Yes.
And they're the people who need it
they're
more.
the people that are mostly more needed.
Are they the people who get infected?
I think they're more of they're the first line that gets infected.
Okay.
They are majorly the first line. Then the second line are more people. So we're talking about people more in the rural areas because someone who maybe had rats around his house and he feels like, okay, these people are around, and then they can go into his store.
It looks like a normal lifestyle for them.
It's a normal lifestyle for him. He gets infected, he starts having this fever, he's bleeding, and he's passing out bloody feces, and then when they take him to the hospital, the doctor is taking his blood sample, doctor, and then somebody gets infected and then begins to pass. So he brought it from the rural area and brought it into the urban area, or brought it out of his own local area and brought it in. So these are areas I feel NCDC needs to put. They're doing a fantastic job, but they need to put a little bit more
sensitization
more
to the
sensitization
grassroots.
needs to get to the grassroots.
So we're still talking about sensitization now, especially in the grassroots. What practical steps can individuals and families now take for themselves? Since we do not have or perhaps there are not enough information or orientation from the government, what are the practical steps that individuals and families, let's say in the grassroots or in the urban area, could take? What are those steps that they could take to protect themselves first?
First and foremost, hygiene for me is very, very important. Personal hygiene. As an individual, you should have the optimum. We had this. We talked about Ebola, we talked about and coronavirus, we talked about raising the hygiene level, and people did it surprisingly well. People were washing hands, As in, you go to the hospital, you see them using sanitizer, you see them washing their hands.
So when you talk about coronavirus, Ebola, people took that viruses or those viruses serious. I don't know. Well, I have not seen people take preventive measures for Lassa fever as serious as they did for coronavirus and Ebola virus. Why?
Okay. This is where I think it would be.
That was why I was asking you a question about meat. So perhaps they think, oh, there's this meat that says, oh, it's not a serious virus after all. It may not kill, or it's not as...
It hasn't had so much a fatality rate as it has right now.
Okay, yes.
So people, it's not something people say, oh, okay, we've had Lassa before. For example, Lassa came in 2022.
How many people died?
Then you now talk about 2025, this is not Lassa, it has come again. We will sort it. After a while it will stop, then we'll continue with our lives. Or they feel, oh, it's not an international incident. It is just localized to just these few countries. They will sort themselves out.
Especially in West Africa.
Yeah, West Africa, that's all. West Africa, take care of yourselves.
As long as it's not in the western part of the country.
Corona was everywhere in the world. Airplanes, like everybody. Which airplane now is bothered about what Lassa fever?
Yes.
Even
Ebola was serious then. Africa, especially West Africa, Nigeria was shut out of every country.
Ebola was the whole of, they were checking you. Do you sure you don't have Ebola?
Immediately you have a high temperature, you're not.
But now who is checking whether you're coughing or anything, or you have you're having bloody stools with it? Because they just feel that, okay, it is this country, okay, and it's very, very few people.
So that is where the government, we're going to get to the part of the government, because that is where Nigerian government, now bringing it back home, that is where the government has to come in. The Ministry of Health, Ministry of Environment has to collaborate together, do something, sensitize the people, be serious about it. If there are more information, if there are serious, if these informations are making buzz, people, it will start sinking into the head and ears of the people. So back to preventive measures again. Hygiene, number one.
Very most common. I would always say that tops everything. Hygiene is very, very, very important. Now, next thing with hygiene. And hygiene starting with this, personal hygiene first. Then community hygiene. So we go into, you take care of yourself personally, then you can now be empowered to take care of the community. You now make sure the community is clean. There's no places where rats can abide and all those things. You take care of your community, your environment. Then from there, we now move on to treatment places where people who do have issues can come to facilities and they are properly treated. They're properly given the right kind of things to treat them, because this Lassa fever, its onset from this is from the time you've been exposed to it. You have between 7 to 21 days. Okay. So if you don't get treated within that period of time, it's said that how severe it is, the risk of death is about 2 weeks from onset of symptoms. You don't get treatment about 2 weeks.
And it takes about 20, how many days again before the symptoms start?
No, the symptoms from 7 to 21 days. You have this incubation period, you've been exposed to it. So once you start seeing certain symptoms, you start saying you're having cough, you're having a fever, you're having headaches, you're having muscle pain.
So you're saying this virus is very, very fatal?
It can be fatal. The risk of death with this virus, which by NCDC and other distances has always been a 1%. It's always had a low distance because people can come in, they start getting treated for things like that. That's why I said by 2 weeks if you've not gotten treatment. So imagine someone who's been at home now, he's been having body pains and he feels sick. Someone says, let's take you to the hospital. They start putting you on antibiotics, start putting you on things, and it reduces the risk. There's reduced risk. You're not most likely going to die from it. So people feel it's okay, this is something treatable. But as you said, as you called, the myth is that people now feel, oh, okay, at home, I'm having these body pains, I don't bother. You start seeing, and the symptoms are gradually increasing.
And a lot of people now, because of the situation of the country, you've seen a lot of people directing their ways to self-medication. They're helping themselves. Now, people barely go to the hospital until it gets very severe. By the time it gets very severe and fatal, that is when you see them. And by the time it gets to that point, it becomes an emergency. You go to the hospital, doctors could barely do their best. And if someone, God forbid, something happens, the person passes away, you blame the doctors.
I can tell you, if NCDC were to release figures of or locations of where exactly the numbers they're getting them for, you will be surprised that many of them mostly rural. Because these are people that are coming to the facility much late. there are areas that before they get to, maybe they have to walk a mile or 2 miles to get to a health center. Who can even, so who would rather, maybe give me that one agbo that grows in their this thing. They just self-medicating and different things, and they feel okay to go down. And then things
like what the report we just watched for the World Health Day, you see the man talking about self-medication,
yes, he's gone
taking herbs,
he
and
said
all
the
of
doctors, you can imagine all the doctors have left.
That was so
the
naive.
rest of us that
such a naive statement.
The rest of us are now experimenting, so let him go on. Be fully
experimenting, but if he gets an emergency, he will run to the hospital the next minute and expect a doctor to save him.
Yeah, but he's already even experimenting with his life.
I feel like in Nigeria, we do not give our health professionals the credit they deserve, because it is more than one doctors with 100 people in Nigeria. Yes. We already have low rate of doctors in Nigeria. The ones that are remaining, people, we're not talking about, we're not even going to the brain drain and Japa syndrome affecting us. Doctors and health professionals are living by the day because they are not well paid enough. And I don't blame them. Everybody will look for better opportunities when you find them. And the people who are here risking their life, they do not get enough credit. They treat you, they take care of you every day. I've seen situations, Nigerians were very, very spiritual here. You will have an emergency, perhaps a surgery. Doctors take care of you. Make sure the surgery goes successful. You come back, you go to church. I'm not saying thanking God is not, there is something wrong with thanking God. But they do not give the credit to the health professionals who saved your life first. You go and give thanks, to the church. You go and thank God for saving your life. But God used somebody as an instrument to save you. But we've seen cases all over social media where something goes wrong, people die. You blame doctors, you call out the nurses, you call out the hospitals, and you don't give us enough details of what happened, what transpired, what you've been doing, what time did you get to the hospital.
That's right. Things
like that. So I think medical professionals in Nigeria, kudos to you guys. You guys are doing an amazing job. And you're not getting enough credit for what you're doing, honestly.
I would say this, that because for example, I read somewhere recently that someone talked about, they actually, I think either his mom or somewhere had an illness, went to a hospital, I felt like, these Nigerian doctors, and so he started making plans to take her abroad. Surprisingly, the doctor he met in the hospital he didn't want to go to, when he went abroad, I think a year later was the same doctor he met.
Doctor, do you know that now you mentioned it, the best doctors in America are Nigerians?
Very true, I do know.
They are.
It's not just
all over the world.
Not just Nigeria. I know I have colleagues in Trinidad, the best doctors running there are Nigerian.
And they started here?
Yes, they all started here in Nigeria.
So why do we look down on our own health professionals?
They say the prophet is without honor in his own country, or without honor in his own home.
Quite sad.
The thing is, the problem, like just what that guy was talking about, is you say the people here, you look down on these ones here. The people, many of our ministers and people are going to, many of them will tell you the Nigerian guys they're also going to meet. Or the Nigerians working where they are going
better equipment, better system. So I think the difference is, let me ask you, let me not think for health professionals, I'm not a doctor. Is the difference the better system? There are working systems. Nigerian system obviously would know that our healthcare system is not working in Nigeria. We're not going to lie about it. So the difference is you're professionals. You don't have access to certain things you're supposed to have access to. We don't have enough blood in our banks. You go to different hospitals, emergencies, we rarely have different things. We do not have such equipment. But when you go to where the system or country where these things are properly functioning, you are excelling. Because the system is helping you, it's enabling you to have everything put in place for you. So it's not difficult to do your job. But I wonder why the government has not really looked into our health sector. Because to me, I believe that budget for health should be number one in our budget every year.
That's true. I agree.
Instead of focusing on
the other things,
on different things, or like international trips that I don't want to mention, but let's still focus on environment now and awareness. Are the ministries, still talking about government, are the Ministry of Environment, National Orientation Agency, let me even say the Ministry of Environment alone, are they doing anything as regards Lassa fever prevention?
I doubt that. I think more of it has been more with the health sector, and with these kind of things. Imagine a Ministry of Environment now succeeds its
cleaning. You spoke about tidying our environment, cleaning your houses. So this should come from the Ministry of Environment.
They succeed all that now to the health. Okay, you handle all that. Health will come and tell you with this, but then the ministry should take also more active measures, go forth into environments, make sure these things are done, and impose fines on where these things are not done. Ensure these environments are clean. These people, and when you begin to start doing these things, you see how the change occurs. You could see that when it came to coronavirus and with those things, because the world was watching, and because Nigeria had enough money that was coming through
And
WHO
because it
and
also
other things.
affected the rich and mighty
Oh,
people.
good, yes. You could see how they were really going to people. If people were being, you could see fines. Imagine people coming out of their house and you're seeing a fine at your gate because your bin has not been cleared for days. People were very, very proactive with hygiene. Why stop? That's why I was going to talk about that. Because we felt, oh, could these were much more had more worldwide reach of incidents of fatalities. Now, okay, they are gone. 2022, we had.
Imagine this happened in
Outbreak.
America, let's say America or Canada, the story will be different. It will
would
be
be.
all over the world.
Yes.
Sensitization will be all over the world. We're going to be hearing it everywhere. But doctor, we're kind of pressed for time, but I want us to look at treatment measures now. Are there any total full treatment measures for Lassa fever?
Okay. So
And
now,
then we'll get to vaccine.
okay. So for Lassa fever, early detection, they said, which when a patient presents in the hospital, lab tests are run. Now, the test to be able to diagnose this, we run in ELISA, PCR, just the same kind of things we run when we're doing coronaviruses. So they're very high quality tests to be able to detect. But once a patient comes in, the symptoms are treated immediately. You put the patient on IV medication, drips, and antibiotics, and so on and so forth. Even there are studies that show that they've even started on ribavirin, which is a viral medication. Now that is not had so wide a very high incidence of let's say success, but it's been effective enough with at least delaying the onset of the disease with people or the progression of it. So once a patient presents early to the facility, to the hospital, he's put on medications to combat this. And with time, the fever regresses.
All right, let's touch on
Treatment
vaccine. Any vaccine available?
Vaccine
Anyone
right now-
developing?
Right now, no vaccines are available. Still working towards it. The government is promising they are working towards. As we know, Nigeria
Because
is still a work in
It's
progress.
a secluded thing for West Africa. It's not an emergency, a worldwide, a
so-
world emergency thing.
Yeah. So no vaccine as of right now, but there are promises that they say it's, and then don't forget we had one in 2022. This is 2025. We're having another outbreak again, and still no vaccine.
All right, doctor, we'll continue. But before we continue, I'd like us to take some practical tips. I've put out some practical prevention tips for Lassa fever. We'll take that tips after this break and we'll continue. All right, welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is still Health Check on Voice of the People Television, and we've been X-raying rather Lassa fever treatment, causes, and preventive measures. Of course, Dr. Paul Kushemeju has been with us here. He's a safety and environmental expert and a family and general doctor. And now, Dr. Paul, let's look at health workers. A lot of health workers are facing the hazards. What are the government doing in protecting health workers in this virus or during this time of this outbreak? Are there any something like incentives that the governments are? You're laughing. I haven't even finished, doctor.
Wow.
I wonder what I said. But
incentives.
But there should be
No.
bonus, hazard bonus increased. Different kinds of incentives to at least, help boost the morale of the health workers because they're risking their lives.
Hazard things have been things that doctors have always had issues with the government. If you've noticed some of the strikes that doctors have had, if you've ever conversed with a doctor then, he'll tell you some of the things they've put out to the government, some of the things they have also reached out and asked for is increment in their hazard bonuses. And I can tell you that hazard bonus for doctors in a month, if I tell you the amount, some of it, you will be shocked.
See me saying child, like I've brought it down to the local man now, seriously.
But it's really sad.
It's sad.
It's really sad that they say, and I was checking this up some time ago, I was talking with someone, if you look in every country, Nigerian doctors are one of the lowest paid.
Yes, true.
Yes, you show you.
And they're one of the most hardworking.
And they're one of the most hardworking and one of the most brilliant
stressed.
doctors.
Yes.
And we work much more hours than any other doctor in any other country.
True.
But we're the lowest paid doctors. It's pathetic, that's to say the least. But so it's the government needs to, I can tell you what government is doing. In my hospital, government they have a thing about Lassa fever, know about Lassa fever, know this, know that. I've not seen anybody come, not that we don't know, but who's come to tell you, oh, what's the progress of Lassa fever, this is what to educate the people, who is providing personal protective equipment, PPEs for the doctors.
For health workers.
Even I do remember when it was Corona, I was shocked because hospitals I went to, surprisingly, the doctor tell you, I said, doctor, are you not supposed to be covered up with? He said, who is providing that? Is it the government? We're waiting for government before you do anything. You will not do anything. Nothing. It's sad to see that your own people, you don't even care about them, their own welfare. And these are people that you entrust to take care of the rest of the people. As you said, doctors, you're saying 100 to 1. I think actually it's almost about 200 people to one doctor.
In Nigeria.
And then, yes, in Nigeria. And then you now expect these few doctors still left to cater to the rest of the millions out there and not protect themselves. We see the Japa syndrome on a day-to-day basis happening. And then, so it even should be more like, we need to put more effort.
The other day, the health minister was begging doctors to come back. People who
have
traveled out to
no,
come
I was
back and
surprised.
help
No, I
the
know, but
system
I thought no,
and the
but they made a comment. I actually told someone they made a comment. People were doing the Jackpot syndrome initiative that they went to the airport to stop the doctors. Do you know what the health minister said
can't
then?
do that. That's
no,
their fundamental human rights.
People didn't even listen to him. But do you know what he said? The government said then. They said, don't worry, when we build that, they were bringing out the document to be better health service. By the time they'll start recruiting back doctors from abroad. And I told them, oh, they're going to be paying them in dollars, right? You've not paid the people here in dollars. You're thinking of recruiting doctors.
The ones that already left. I would have asked you the psychological toll this outbreak would have taken on health workers, but we're out of time. You already mentioned it.
Yeah.
They are underpaid, no hazard allowance. Nothing is happening, and it's a sad situation. So in 30 seconds, just give me your wrap up. What do you think at the end of the day in all of this during this time of this outbreak? And we'll wrap up.
With all this outbreak happening, I know that there are other things happening in the country, but government needs to put an eye more into this. The president, especially as the leader, needs to put more interest into curbing this and making sure that the health of his citizens is his #1 priority.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Paul Kushemeju, who is, of course, a health professionals with over 13 years of experience. They are in general and family medicine. He also serves as a health, safety, and environmental manager, equipped with Bosch qualifications. I hope I got the spelling right there. And beyond his clinical work, I'm going to blow his trumpet because it's not easy. Dr. Paul is a certified health and wellness coach, a practicing telemedicine doctor, and an entrepreneur committed to improving healthcare access and promoting healthier lifestyle. Yes, thank you so much once again for joining us. Thank you. So this is where we'll sadly draw the curtain on Health Check on Voice of the People Television. Do well to join us every Saturday by 2 p.m. right here on Voice of the People Television. Health Check comes your way every 2 p.m. And remember, your health is very important. Health is wealth, like they say. Do not ever take your health for granted for any reason at all. Always make sure you go to the hospital, check on your health. Usually, my name is Promise. See you next week. Thank you.